Have you ever wondered what makes Brazil such an irresistible destination? Or maybe you're someone who has never considered Brazil as a place to live or visit. My name is Karl Pierre, and today I'm going to share with you why I absolutely love Brazil. From its breathtaking natural beauty to its vibrant culture, and let's not forget the practical side of things, the cost of living and economic opportunities. On this channel, I focus on teaching people how to live globally and finding ways to make it affordable. So if you're curious about life beyond borders and how you can make it work financially, you're in the right place. Do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insights on global living. Let's dive into the heart of Brazil and discover what makes this country truly unique to me. First off, Brazil's natural beauty is simply unmatched. We're talking about the Amazon rainforest, endless beaches, and breathtaking landscapes. It's a paradise for nature lovers and adventurers alike. Just take a look at the scale of Brazil on the map. It's almost 1/3 of South America, and it has so many different landscapes throughout the country. Amazon takes up the majority of it. It has tons of natural water, tons of diverse animal life. It's one of these places that it's kind of hard to imagine until you're actually in the thick of it. In the city that I own property, or in the state that I own property, because I have a property in Cabo Frio, but that's part of Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro has like this cool mix of mountains and a cityscape combined in one, and it's beach for days. Like, you drive down the Costa Azul, it's beautiful bluish green waters, tropical vibes, monkeys in the trees. It's such a cool place. And if you go further to the north, you have a whole new landscape. It becomes kind of desert-like. And to the south, you get more of a temperate sort of temperature. It doesn't get into like freezing territory like down in Patagonia, Argentina, but you do have a good range. If you like it hot, then go to the north. If you like seasons, maybe more familiar to Southeast United States, then Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo is going to give you a flavor of that. If you want to have a even wider range, maybe weather similar to, let's just say, North Carolina or something, then Florianopolis will be a perfect part of town to explore. And then as you go further west into the rainforest and into kind of the gnarly side of Brazil, you get a whole new vibe. Indigenous communities, wild rivers, anaconda snakes, very unique foods and flavors. You'll find it all throughout Brazil. And this is one of the things that really made it shine for me. Next up, Brazil's culture. It's a melting pot of influences that creates a vibrant, dynamic society. From Carnival to samba, the energy is just infectious. Looking at the history of Brazil, you kind of have to just look at all the different people that have come together to make this particular culture. You have this huge African immigration that took place through the slave trade, unfortunately, but that African influence is very dominant and present. You hear it in the music, you see it in the people. Another big population are the indigenous people. If you look at a lot of Brazilians, you'll see that they have these indigenous features, kind of tanner, more caramel skin, straight to wavy hair. That isn't because the people had mixed between white and black. That's actually the look of a lot of the indigenous people that are native to Brazil. And of course, those people have integrated and mixed with all the other cultures that are there. And since this was a Portuguese colony, you have a lot of Portuguese influence. So you see this European influence. It shows up in the architecture, obvious in the language. And then there were other waves of immigration that came into Brazil, especially around World War II. So you have a large German population, a large Italian population. You see these different influences scattered throughout the country, and you'll see it pronounced in the south, like closer to Uruguay and Argentina, where you have these large European settlements because the weather there was more mild and more consistent with what Europeans came accustomed to experiencing, or came accustomed to when they were coming from abroad. If you come from Europe and you dropped off in the north, you would probably hate Brazil. But the climate down in the south is a little more mild and tolerable for people who aren't into the full-on tropical vibes. And as somebody who travels the world, I really like to see how cultures kind of overlap and what gets brought in from one place to the next. As previously mentioned, you have the Europeans, the Africans, and the indigenous that have come together in this very unified way. Unlike the United States, where we have tons of immigrants and tons of mixing, the identity of the American people isn't quite homogenous just yet. I would say that in Brazil, Once you've been there for a generation, you become Brazilian and you just adapt to the Brazilian way of life. There isn't this like culture of I'm Italian Brazilian or I'm Portuguese Brazilian. If you've been there for one generation, you're born there, you're just Brazilian and you like samba, you like the food, you adapt to the way that the country functions. In the States, it seems like everybody still kind of holds on to their roots. And for me, that's not something that I've ever enjoyed about the United States. So if you're someone who's like me, who likes history, who likes to see the mixing of people, then Brazil's culture will be quite fascinating to you. As always, let's talk about the cost of living and the economics of Brazil. It's a factor that can make or break your global living experience, and Brazil has some intriguing opportunities to explore. First off, the cost of labor is remarkably cheap. There are a lot of people who are earning between $200 and $300 per month, and that's kind of like the minimum wage starting point. Now, the reason why this is good if you are in business or if you're in manufacturing, it shows that there's a low-cost manufacturing class, low-cost labor class, and this can help when it comes to household labor, manufacturing of goods, farming, and so on. It may seem exploitative because, again, it's not a lot of money to live off of, but the wages are kind of adjusted and the lifestyle is kind of adjusted to these lower wages. So if you're someone who earns above average or you're earning average income in the United States and you were to be able to transport that income to Brazil, services will be rather inexpensive and you'll be able to enjoy a higher quality of life. Again, this isn't the best scenario for the local people, but what I think that's interesting about that is Brazil is rich on natural resources and it has a pretty well-developed manufacturing culture. So I see that with all this inexpensive labor and a large population, over 200 million people, Brazil can actually go through quite a bit of an industrial revolution, which will ultimately improve things for the entire middle class, just as it was in the United States, just as it was in China. If you see, China's the number 2 economy in the world now, and that's mainly due to their ability to tap into the global market, be able to produce goods at low cost, and having a proactive government that's literally looking to boost and build that middle class. I think Brazil has the same potential, and it hasn't quite hit that point yet. So if you're gonna invest in Brazil, either start a business or just relocate there, I think there's some positive upside to what's going on in the Brazilian economy. When it comes to the cost of living, as a single person in most of Brazil, you could afford a decent lifestyle on around $1,500 US. I did an interview with my friend Yusuf, who recently passed away, but Yusuf was going over his cost of living there. He was spending about $300 to $400 a month on his lodging, and that was like in a good part of Sao Paulo, and that is not atypical. I also covered apartments that are closer to the beach in Cabo Frio, and you're able to get a 2-bedroom apartment for around $600 to $700 a month, walking distance to the beach, about 4 blocks from the beach with water views. So if you just put that into perspective, as a person who's single, earning $1,500 a month passively from the United States, you could be retired military, retired police, government worker, or you just have some cash flow coming in. 1/3 to 1/4 of your income is going to go to housing and your basic expenses, utilities, etc. And the rest is up to you to eat and enjoy your life. $1,500 is all it takes to live a quality middle class life, what you would consider middle class in the United States. Able to afford your bills, able to eat out, able to entertain yourself periodically. Obviously, if you make more money, then the quality of life just increases. If you're someone who's making $5,000 to $6,000 US a month, life gets really good. If you're making $10,000 a month, or what people would call 50,000 reais, 50,000 reais is a really good lifestyle. I would say 50,000 reais might be the equivalent of making around $300,000 a year in the United States. So for $10,000 a month in Brazil, you could live like somebody who's making between $300,000 and $400,000 a year in the United States. You'll live in the best parts of town, be able to send your kids to private schools, have maids, housekeeping services, nanny that lives in with you, all of that good stuff. So again, if you look at it from just the economic potential, Brazil got it. And if you look at it from the quality of life potential, also again, for a lower cost, Brazil has some really great opportunities for you. If you're intrigued about what Brazil has to offer and you want to learn more, check out this video right here. We dive deeper into what makes Brazil an awesome place to live, work, and play. Stick around for more real talk on living globally. Watch that video.